but nothing ever stopped me from dusting off my shoes. You might think you'll see me falling to the ground, but I threw up my umbrella when rain stops hitting town. Yeah! On a bad day, on a good day, I don't need the sunshine.
G'day guys, just turn this down. How professional is that? So we're using a new platform here today. We've not used this one at all ever. So if it all falls in a basket and it goes to shite, well, my apologies. Today I'm streaming across 3 platforms. That intro was a little bit longer just so I knew it would sync up across all platforms. Well, we'll just see how it goes. So I'm streaming at the moment to YouTube, the regular YouTube channel. I am streaming to the Bloody Legends Facebook group, and I'm streaming to the Phone Photo School group as well. So we'll just see how we go. Today, if I have a bit of a coughing fit, I'm at the end of a bit of a head cold, if you like. And if I do, well, just amuse yourselves while I take care of it. Today we've got a few different things, and there's a couple of reasons that I'm doing it this way now. One, and the first and foremost thing is that, well, I can bring people on and we can talk to other people. And today we've got a guest, and that guest is Greg McMillan, and I'll introduce Greg in just a second. Some of you probably know him from the Bloody Legends photography group and also from his podcast. What else are we talking about? We're going to talk about some gear that I've got here, and some gear that people have sent me, some gear that I've gone out and bought myself. And I'll explain what all that is when we get to that. And we'll obviously go through all of your photos, or a number of photos anyway, over there on the Bloody Legends photography group on Facebook. I'll just see here how many people are watching. We've got 7 or so of us. So over on YouTube, I can't see. One of the downsides of this is I can't see at the moment how many are actually watching on Facebook. I can see the comments coming through what I'm looking at here, and I can see the comments. If you guys start throwing things like super chats and stuff like that, I can see it on the YouTube stuff as well. So if you've got questions about anything that we're asking here, anything we're talking about here, add a comment there and I'll cover it off as we get there. G'day Ron, good to see you, man. You're taking some bloody good photos at the moment. I'm seeing them on the Facebook group. Anyway, let's bring in a guest. This might, like I said, might just turn to shit. We'll see. Here he is. G'day, Greg.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It worked.
Yeah.
If I start coughing, you might have to take care of the show yourself.
Oh.
So, for those who don't know you, Greg, tell us a little bit about Greg.
Well, let's see. I'm not the best with my throat either. Asthmatic and stuff. So anyway, I started doing iPhone photography probably in 2012 when I got my first iPhone 4S. And as far as how did I get to where I am now, I started listening to the Tiny Shutter podcast and became a real fan of those guys. And then they had me on as a guest one time. And a couple of times, after a couple of appearances on there, they decided to bring me on as a co-host. So I thought that was really cool. Let's see now. Okay, so fast forward to about a year and a half ago, Tiny Shutter kind of stopped production. I'll say stopped regular production because Mark Sadowski, one of the co-founders of the podcast, still will put the odd thing out, but not, I don't know when the last one was that he put anything out. It was quite a while ago, but so he kind of handed the reins over to me to do a podcast about iPhone photography on a regular basis. And so I did that. I already had a podcast where I did interviews of people who were doing iPhone photography. So Dave Podner, my co-host, he was on Tiny Shutter as well. And since Dave and I don't have a life compared to those other guys, that's how we look at it. Dave come over and joined me and to carry on. And so it used to be like an interview show, and now it's called the iPhoneography Podcast. And Dave's been with me ever since. I forget when we actually made the change, but yeah, he's been my co-host now, and the other guys, the guys from Tiny Shutter will come on sometimes, like in a pinch if one of us can't make it. They're always happy to fill in. But what was
I see that you have I see that you have some guys there. I hear it. I've listened to it basically since you've reached out to me that time and said, "Hey, you want to come on the podcast?" And
yeah,
I've listened to it. I've listened to a heap before then, and pretty much everyone since then. That WW whatever it was, I couldn't listen to that one. Man, that just went forever. That was a long podcast. That went for so long. And take my hat off to you. I'm not even wearing one today, but that was a really long podcast. I don't know how you guys can talk for that long. But I've got a few questions here to ask you about. And you've obviously been photographing for a while. Tell us about where you are in the world.
Yeah, I'm in Ontario, Canada, and I am about 2 hours or so just northwest of Toronto.
So what's the photographic opportunity that you have there? What sort of things do you photograph?
Oh, man, you know what? I really like this area because it has a little bit of everything. Like, it doesn't have big mountain ranges like you see in the Rocky Mountains or the Swiss Alps or things like that, but it does have a lot of different types of landscapes, like everything from what you have there, Shane, like flat meadows and flat land, to rocky shorelines on the Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. We have hilly areas with a lot of hills and stuff. Forests. What else? And if I wanted to take a drive down to Toronto, like that's only about 2.5 hours, I can go right downtown Toronto and do a lot of urban stuff. So there's a little bit of everything right where I am, which keeps it interesting.
So how far, do you know what sort of water level you are with as far as dark skies go?
I have an app in here, I think, that was showing me that. Or no, I was on that website you talk about. Yeah, you know what? I could drive probably within an hour of my house, and it could be very, very dark, like almost pitch dark. Yeah, cool. So what phone are you using? I see you've got a couple of boxes up behind you there. It's a 12 by the look of it. Okay, so the purple box is from my wife's iPhone 12, and the big black box is my 12 Pro Max.
Okay.
And I also have my old 10S Max that right now it's running iOS 15 beta on it. Okay.
Yep. Cool. So I see there you've got different cases on there for lenses by the look of that.
Yeah. This is the Moment case, the thin case. Yep. And then this is the Moment case for the 10S Max.
Okay.
Because I've been doing a lot of macro photography for this book I'm writing about macro.
So how's that book going?
It's going not too bad. I've got I'm working on the largest chapter, which is all the different shooting techniques. I've covered lighting and different things I've covered already now, and now I'm into the meat and potatoes of the book, which is all the shooting techniques.
Okay. See, one of the companies that have been sending me stuff, they asked me about macro, and in the back of my head I'm going, well, Greg's writing a book. There's probably nothing I'm going to bring to the table until Greg brings his book out. So I'm a bit cautious of doing a video about macro photography when the guru's on the other side of the world about to write a book about it all.
I wouldn't worry about that.
So we'll see how that one goes. Anyways, what about apps? What apps do you use for your photography, for editing, planning, whatever?
Well, because I do the podcast, I have a ton of different apps on the phone at any given time, because if there's something that comes out, I want to be able to talk about it, right? Yeah. So I won't even go into how much money I've spent in the App Store over the years. But
You should start a YouTube channel, mate, and see how much money you spend.
but I use halide to shoot pretty much 98% of the time. I still use the Apple camera app, the native camera app, for some things, and I do the slow shutter work. I'll use slow shutter cam or Spectre. Yep. And I've got this one that you've introduced to us to even longer. And I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but I'm really anxious to try that one out. I have a feeling it's going to be a real good one.
I think they all bring something unique to the table. That,
sure they do. Yeah.
Even longer that shoots for a long time, a really long time. Hence the name. When I heard it on that David Addison, I think his last name is. Yeah. He's another YouTuber. He had the YouTube name was like Pisikel Mao or something when he first started. I could never remember what it was called. But he did a video about that even longer. And when I started watching it, I'm like, what's this app called? I get that it shoots for even longer, but what's it called?
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing.
Yeah. But the work that I've done with it so far has just been, I'm so impressed by it. It's really, really good. The downside is you've got to use a tripod, obviously, because it shoots for, I think, up to half an hour. It's a really, really long. I think it can even go longer than that. I haven't actually pushed it past that. But the Spectre, that I did a video with that one up on the Gold Coast, and with that fellow Ralph Mayhew, and underneath that pier on the Gold Coast on the surf beach, and he was doing, it was like 6 or 7 minutes, I think it was, on a tripod with his Nikon, and I just did that. Did I do it handheld? I can't remember. I might have put it on a tripod, but you don't need to. With that Spectre, you can do it handheld with a long exposure. That's very cool. Yeah, and it just does it with that live. It just stacks live images. It's pretty clever the way it does that.
Yeah, I have a similar story. There was a waterfall I was at recently, what was it? The fall of 2019. So it was before COVID, and it was in the autumn. So it was a pretty popular location at the time. And there was a guy standing there with this big Nikon camera on a tripod, and he had the lens on there and the big filter, glass filter in the holder and all this stuff. So I knew exactly what he was shooting. So I stepped in beside him and I looked down, be careful not to touch his tripod. And I just opened up Spectre and leaned in. And I think it was I think it might've been a 5-second shot. I'm not sure. And then I come back and I was looking at the image and how it looked on the phone. And I could just feel him looking over my shoulder. So I looked at him and I held my phone up and I said, it's really amazing what these things can do now. And that just sparked about a half-hour conversation with him about what it was capable of doing and all this stuff. And he was just blown away.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those things that I think when I first started into mobile photography, and it was because I've been shooting DSLRs for a long, long time, and I was teaching photography with regular cameras for a long time, and in the small town that I live in, I'd pretty much taught anyone who wanted to be taught, if you like. There's only 2,500 people here, and it's not a big place. So, and Sarah, my wife, she said to me, "You need to teach people how to take photos with the phones." I'm like, "No one does that. It's a phone, for crying out loud." So I was that guy. Looking at your phone, going, "Okay, that's kind of cool."
Oh yeah,
I was wrong. So I asked you to send me a couple of photos, and I'll just dig these up. Just give me 2 seconds. Here we go. There. So this is the first one that you sent me. So for those who are watching, I should say g'day to everyone first. I don't know who that Facebook user is. I can't tell who that is. I don't know what you look at here, Greg, by the way. So this is new to me, this particular streaming software. This Gimbal Walk TV. All good. Looking forward to hearing you guys on this one. Good to have you here. Devo and David Bullitt. Good to have you guys here. So, Greg, tell us about this first photo here.
Okay, this is a location that I like to go to at least 2 or 3 times a year. And so that is a bridge that actually it relates to the other photo too. It's the same river, but just a different spot. But there's a steel bridge that goes across that river. It's off to the right of the frame. You can't see it, but I put that was with my iPhone 8 Plus, and I used slow shutter cam, and I just put it on the tripod, and I just kind of composed it so to just get where the water was falling off of the higher part onto the lower part there. And what I like about that is that those clumps of ice and snow, they just look like they're floating in the air. It's just, the way the way the camera picks them up, I guess. But it's, that was probably about, I think the river is about 50 feet across right there. So something that I talked about with Dave in the podcast last night was, we talked about the telephoto camera and how it compresses the stuff in the frame. So the trees on the far side don't look that far away from that tree on the foreground on the left, but yet, we're talking probably 50 feet apart or more. But no, I just really like that spot, and I like that composition. A lot of people think it's black and white, but it is indeed in color. And I even saturated it a little bit to bring out those sticks that are lying in the river there, just where the water flows over.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Now I'll zoom in on that so people can see it, what it is that you're talking about. No, that's not going to work. Shane, go that way. That looks pretty cool. We'll say it's an iPhone 8.
8 Plus, yeah, with the 2 lenses, yeah.
That's impressive, isn't it? And as soon as I saw this other photo that you sent, I knew you were like, yeah, send this to Shane. This will get to him.
Well, you said this had 2 favorites, so
yeah.
it is one of my favorites.
It's a river photo.
That's further up the river, and that's slow shutter cam again, because I find slow shutter cam, and I haven't tried even longer yet, but I find slow shutter cam is probably one of the best ones for doing this type of stuff. And this image kind of has everything that I love about photography. A nature scene in the forest, a river with flowing water, and it was an overcast day. In fact, it was actually probably spitting rain a little bit. And I just love that kind of photography, that kind of stuff, especially around here. We have the area to do that in. And it's my editing on that one, I think, was probably done in the Photos app on the iPhone. And I wanted to bring out the greens a little bit more, saturate the greens, and put a little vignette around it. And and when I do something like that, I expose for the water, the brightest part of the water. I expose for that, and then everything else, you can always bring out detail out of the shadows if you need to.
Yeah, I think if I remember rightly from your podcast, you do a lot of your editing in that Photos app. I don't recall that you do a lot of editing outside of the Photos app. Do you do much outside it?
I was using an app called Lumabee. It's an app by a couple of guys over in the Czech Republic, and for some reason on my 12 Pro Max, it's just not performing as well. I don't know if it's the latest iOS 14 thing or what it is. I got to get a hold of those guys and find out. But I really enjoyed using that app, and it's designed to get you through the editing process quickly. Do your light and contrast, your saturation, and color work and stuff like that. And it's not as feature filled as something like Snapseed or even the Photos app itself. But I always really enjoyed using it. Okay,
is that app that you're talking about here, is that on the iPhone 12 Pro that you're using? Is that because you're using the development mod or the beta version of that, aren't you?
The beta is on my 10S Max.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I thought maybe that might be part of the reason. I found that because I'm part of that development program, so I throw the betas on my phone all the time. and occasionally I find something doesn't quite work, and by the time they release it, it's working. There's that Night Sky app that I use to find where the ISS and find where different satellites and stuff are. That there on the beta versions quite often doesn't work straight away. Not well. It loses the GPS and stuff like that for whatever reason. But by the time that it's launched properly, it's working fine. So yeah. Anyway, I really like those photos. That's quite cool. So look, I'll go for anyone else that's watching. I'm planning to do this sort of thing with anyone. So I'll go through photos on the Bloody Legends Facebook group, and if I see some, and there's definitely heaps of guys there and girls who are out there taking some bloody awesome photos, I go through that list, not the list, but the gallery of photos there, and we'll do that in a second. And it's hard to find a bad photo. I belong to or a member of different mobile photography groups on Facebook, and as most people who would watch this sort of a thing are, and you would see that people putting up some pretty horrid photos and saying, "Can someone edit this for me?" and things like that. And it's so good that we don't have that in that group. It's so good that it's, like I say, it's pretty hard to find a bad photo. So I'll be hitting up pretty much all of you guys over the next however long we do this for, and say, "Show me some photos. Let's put your mug on the screen here," just like what Greg's volunteered to do first up, and we'll carry on with this every time. Cheers, Greg. I shall continue on with what else I've got to show you guys. So as we go through, sorry. As we go through the rest of the stuff that we're talking about here, and there's really not a great deal. I've got some gear to show you, and we'll go through some photos in a second. But some of the gear obviously people send me stuff, I review stuff, I put it on the show, on the channel, I should say. Some of it, and I've explained this before, some of it I just don't even accept as in it doesn't fit what we do here. But plenty of it does. So I've got a little bit of a, just going to mute you there, Greg. It was kind of like looping through my head, and I thought it was just my cold, but it was gone. So some people, some companies send me stuff. Other companies, I just go and buy it. There's a couple of things that arrived a couple of days ago, and I've done some testing of this one as well. That company, they send me some stuff, well, regularly enough. What they've sent me this time is, this one is called a motion filter. And this one is a variable neutral density filter. And this goes straight on. This has got a clip. So you can clip it, like screws into this and clip it onto your phone. And it's big enough that this will go over pretty much any phone camera that is out there. The testing that I've done with this is, I'm pretty impressed with it so far. So it's a variable one. I'll see if I can get that right there. And I'll turn this. You can see it gets darker as I turn it. And that's, this is designed for film. And we're not a film channel here. We're a photography channel here. So I needed to come up with another way of testing this thing. And I've come up with a couple of ways. One is, with the S21 Ultra, we're going to do some long exposure stuff because I know people want to do that, and we'll certainly be doing that. And you may have seen me talking about Doc Brown before, or Russell Brown. He's I showed you his YouTube channel one time on a live session. So he came up with this method of doing light painting, and he's using ND filters for light painting. And it's such an out of the square thinking and that's just how he is. Very, very unique fella, very, very creative fellow. And some of the work that he does is just amazing. No one can argue with that. Anyway, I was speaking to him about it, and he showed me a different way that he does it, and it's with ND filters. So you can see, you can guarantee you're going to see me using that in a video coming up when I'm testing these things that Sandmark have sent me. So that's the first one. The second one is the same sort of thing, Sandmark again, and these ones are a little bit different. So there's 3 in this one, and what this is ND filters again, but they're also polarizing. And again, they're for video that you can bet your bottom dollar you'll see this in landscape photography. And that's all I've got from Sandmark at the moment. I'll just read through these comments here. Good day, half asleep here. Not sure where you are there, dude. QB Harold. Daydream Llama. For your long exposure, do you ever use the iPhone live phone? Yeah, absolutely. So early in this channel's story, if you like, one of the earlier videos that I've done is about long exposure with using the live feature, as in take a live photo and swipe up in the gallery, and it'll give you the option of looping it and blurring it and long exposure. It's certainly one of the very first videos that I've done. The apps that we were talking about before, what Greg and I were talking about before, some of those actually use that functionality and take multiple live photos and then stack them together, like Spectre. I'll unmute you there, Greg, if you want to weigh into that. So Spectre is an app that will do just that. It'll take multiple live photos and stack them if you to give you that end result. If you have a look through the videos that I've done.
If I could just jump in, I think every app on the iPhone does that, that same type of technology, because the longest the shutter can physically stay open on the iPhone is 1 second. And that is by design by Apple. I guess they find that if it's any longer than 1 second, they get a lot of heat issues in the processors and stuff like that. So 1 second is maximum. And if you want to do a long exposure, you're basically stacking.
It's interesting. I'm definitely going to try this even longer, and Spectre at night. I've only used the slow shutter app and the live photos at night, and Moment. I've used Moment at night time as well. They do the start or the light trails functionality that's on their app. And all of them so far, it's what you said just then is absolutely on the money, because you can see the shutter. You can see it, instead of it being a dead set trail, as in a solid line, you can see the dotted line. So I'll definitely try those other ones and see what they do as well. That's worth a video maybe, comparing those things. Actually, I think David Addison, I think his name is. God, I should write that down.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. I'm horrible with names, as you know. in fact, just let me. So, do you remember? I don't know if he's watching. I can't see. There was a fellow that I'm always saying his name wrong on these streams.
Oh,
and he sent me a message.
I don't see him on YouTube.
Petrika. That's how you say it. Petrika.
I'll play that again. Yeah.
Petrika. That's how you say it. Petrika.
So he said he got sick of me saying his name wrong, and he sent me a message on Facebook Messenger saying, "This is a."
That's awesome.
It's hilarious. Okay, where were we up to? Some other gear. I'll just minimize you there again, Greg.
Okay.
So there's some other stuff here that I can't really explain too much about this one, because that one's actually a product launch that I'm helping a company with at the end of the month. You'll see that one, and I won't say too much about that. But if this was out when I first started my channel, I would have bought this easily. What this can do is just it's mind blowing as far as YouTube stuff goes and video stuff goes. There's one actually here that I've bought. Now, a while ago, what I was saying to Greg before about being evening from the UK, will you test the new iPhone when it comes out? Of course I will test the new iPhone when it comes out. There's a few new phones coming out. There's the Pixel 6. There's the Huawei P50 Pro, and there's the iPhone 13, I think, is what it would be called. Greg, 13, you reckon?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. If they had an issue with the number 13, there wouldn't have been an iOS 13. So I'm quite confident there's going to be an iPhone 13.
Yep, that's good thinking. I never thought of that, but that makes perfect sense. If they were superstitious like that, yep, that's right. So, I'll definitely be testing out the new iPhone. There's certainly been rumors around it having astrophotography, but rumors are, well, they're everywhere. Who knows what it'll come out with until it actually comes out. So what I was talking with Greg before was when I first started into photography, I was shooting DSLR for a very long time. And I'll just pull something up here and show you. With this sort of photo. This is a long exposure photo from New Zealand. This is a DSLR photo. And I love this sort of photography. I'm a big fan of photography that is unusual, and in this case, it's long exposure. So this particular photo was about 10 to 15 minute photo. It's a really, really long photo. That's why there's such perfect reflections there in that water. The clouds are moving. It wasn't a windy day at all. And the way this is achieved is with filters, and like those filters that I mentioned before, the ones from Sandmark there, you're not going to achieve that sort of a duration on a phone. It's just not going to happen. But the filters that I've used for forever and a day when it comes to long exposure photography is NISI filters, NISI. And one of the problems that we have that I see regularly in the comments of the videos that I do here with the nighttime photos is you're too close to town, you're too close to light pollution, and your photos don't work because you're too close to town. So anyway, I went looking to see if we can find a solution for this. In fact, I went out last night into the main street of my town and still took astrophotography photos. I'm pretty lucky where I am. It's a Bortle 4 location there. And it's still, you can still see the galactic core in those photos. That was from the S21 Ultra. But anyway, I went looking to see, before Sandmark had actually sent me those filters, I went looking for filters, for ND filters and for graduating filters. So that photo, that one there, get it bigger than that surely, that photo there is it is an ND filter on that. So there's ND filter, it's probably a 10, an 8, and a grad. And a grad is a filter that is, the top half of it is a darker color, a darker shade, like a pair of sunglasses on the top, and it gradually, it's too early, gradually comes to clear. So there's nothing on the bottom. And I thought, I wonder if that exists for phones. And I went looking, and it does. And it exists for phones with NISI. NISI is that company there. See if I can zoom. There you go. NISI is that one. It's a Chinese company, I'm pretty sure. I've used their filters. Excuse me a second. I've used their filters. I'll just unmute Greg if he wants to say anything to that. I can't unmute you, Greg. I don't know why.
I was muted. I did it on this end.
That's why. He was actually giving me a message up the top there saying, you can't unmute him because he's muted himself. So NISI make filters for DSLRs, like 150 mil filters. So the glass is like that big, like these big pieces of glass that slide in and out of holders that you put onto the front of your lens. And they make them for phones, and that's the holder right there. I bought this one. This was about $50, I reckon. And it comes with 2 filters. It comes with a polarizing filter. You can see there what it does. There. Makes sense? That should make sense. And it also comes with, these are glass. It comes with a graduating filter. So that there, you can see it's like a pair of sunglasses for the top half of the photo. You think, why on earth would you do that? Well, mainly for landscape photography, sunsets and sunrises. When the sky is blowing out, you would bring this piece of glass into the photo, and you would lower the sky, the brightness of the sky without losing the detail in the foreground. So definitely worth looking at that sort of thing. And they actually come, those two pieces of glass there come with this filter, the holder. So these basically just slide into that there, and that's how they hold on to your phone. And obviously it just clips onto your phone. Excuse me a second. And now you're thinking, well, Shane, that doesn't help because you were talking about light pollution and stuff, and now you're talking about landscape photos and stay on track. Well, they also sell these, and this is a natural light filter. You can see what it's doing there behind me there. If I'll shine it over that light on the side without it glaring too much off all the other lights, you can see what it's doing there to that light. So I'm currently testing this. They make these for DSLR cameras, the night filters for DSLR cameras. And what they do, they take out a frequency of light, a man-made light. Now, I'm still testing. The testing that I've done so far, it shows potential, but I haven't got it right where I want it yet. So I'm not about to say go and get one of these things, because it's going to allow you to do astrophotography in places where you generally can't now. But stay tuned. This could be something that might change that game up a little bit for you. Let's have a quick. What generation of mobile phone made you sit up and realise? Geez, I'm not sure. It probably wasn't as long ago as Greg's with the 4, because I was one of those phone deniers, if you like. I was. I'll bring Greg back in there if he wants to say anything. Because I shot DSLR for so long, and I was one of these people who went, well, I've got this big box of gear with all these lenses, and I'm going on a trip. So not only do I need to take enough clothing for my trip, I need to take another checked bag for all my photography gear. And then I went, this is ridiculous. I need to go and buy a smaller camera. So then I went to Micro Four Thirds, and then bought lens for the Micro Four Thirds camera. So instead of taking this much gear, I was now taking this much gear. And I thought I was in front, but I really honestly wasn't. And then started with like point and shoot cameras. So instead of taking this much gear, I was bringing this much gear. Then I brought this much gear. And then it was probably when Sarah said to me, go and teach people how to take photos with their phones. And I went, that's ridiculous. And started taking some photos with my phone. I thought, that's not a bad idea. And so now I don't take much gear at all. I just take that, and that's it. So I would say probably the iPhone 10 is probably for me when I went, this is different. This is worthwhile pursuing. This is where I'm changing my mind. Greg, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah. Okay, so I had DSLR stuff. I had a Canon with the lenses and all that stuff. Like, it wasn't a pro set of gear or nothing, but I had, a 50 millimeter lens, 24 to 105, 18 to 22. So, I had a bit of a variety there. I didn't have a big zoom. Just wasn't really priority for me. But over time, I found that stuff was just sitting there collecting dust when, when I started using the iPhone. And before the iPhone, I was a big BlackBerry guy. I just totally detested Apple and all they stood for, because you couldn't do as many things with an iPhone that you could with the BlackBerry, like transfer music, blah, 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 all that. Mm-hmm. And then it was when a friend of mine had an iPhone 4, and he showed me and I wrote a book about this. It's on the Apple bookstore. It's called Why I Chose iPhoneography. It's all about this transition that I'm just summarizing here now. But the friend of mine showed me a picture of his daughter's dog on his iPhone, And I said, "Oh, did you take that with your Canon?" No, with this phone. And you can see, the fine detail in the hair on the dog and all this stuff. And I thought, what am I doing with a BlackBerry that just shoots? I don't even know what kind of resolution, but it was horrible compared to what I just saw on his phone. So the 4S was just about to come out, so that's when I stepped up to the 4S. I went out and bought the 4S, and BlackBerry was history. But I still kept my Canon, and I updated my Canon after that and everything else. But over the years, when the iPhone got better and better, I started with the 4S, went to a 5S after 2 years. 2 years later, the 6S, and then I started thinking, okay, that Canon is sitting there in the closet, and it's not getting anything. I'm not even using it. So I thought in 2016, I made the decision to just go all in iPhone, and I sold my Canon gear and haven't looked back.
Yeah. The only thing with the iPhones, really, this is still my day-to-day carry, the iPhone 12 Pro Max. And you all know I've got a few phones. I've got Pixels and that S21, and I've now got Huawei, which is a fantastic camera. I can even say it right now, Greg.
Yeah.
But the ease of use in the Apple ecosystem that I have is, you just can't beat that. I would say that the only thing I don't like about this is the lack of manual control. And sure, you can get apps that give you that manual control, but it doesn't give you that up to 30 second manual control. And I find that lacking. I'm really hoping that even if it just had, even if it just had the astrophotography functionality that a Pixel does, because it doesn't have manual control either. If it had that, I'd be pretty stoked. And I've got a feeling with the 13, we may well be quite happy there. If I had to rank those phones from the iPhone down to whatever phone, as far as ease of use goes in the ecosystem that I have, it'd be the iPhone and the Huawei. The Huawei, I plug it into the Mac and it just comes up as an external drive straight away. It just works easily. The S21, it takes amazing photos, and it just does. No one can argue with that. I don't like how the damn thing looks, and I cop a lot of flack from that. You should see the comments. You go and have a look at that first video that I've done with the S21 Ultra with the astrophotography and look through the comments. It's hilarious. Because I said this phone's ugly. Hey, those Android fellas, geez, they get stuck into me about that. It's just an opinion, guys. It's just a phone. It's not the end of the world. And it takes a bloody good photo. You can't deny that. It just takes a really, really good photo. But to get those photos onto my Mac, you've kind of got to wait for like the second Tuesday of the month, hold your tongue the right way, and then hope that something isn't happening on the internet somewhere that's going to stop you bringing those photos on. It's random that Dex works, then it doesn't work. Android file transfer will work, then it won't work. And I do nothing different. I can plug that damn thing in 4 or 5 times and it'll work on the 5th time. Nothing changes. It just drives me absolute batshit crazy. It takes a very, very, very good photo. Ron Duval, always listen to you. I always listen to my wife, man. What are you talking about?
Who doesn't?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Happy wife, happy life.
Absolutely. I'll just go and I will find the Bloody Legends group and bring that in. We are there. So I've only got one screen to do this on, and it makes it a little bit difficult for me. So I'll get over to here. We'll go through some photos here. So at the moment, you guys are seeing Greg and I and that group. That's cool. That's what I want to see. So we'll have a look through these. We'll get rid of Greg's chat. You don't want to see what we've been saying about you guys. I reckon these Rons. They are Rons. Catching lightning on any phone is bloody difficult. And a photo of a sandwich. I didn't see that one before. That's the one I was looking for. This photo. That's awesome.
That
Is that
is
Ron?
cool.
It is, yeah. S21 Ultra. See, now with an iPhone, I think that you would struggle to capture that. I think because with photographing lightning, you need it to be open for a long time because no one can say lightning's happening now. You need the shutter needs to be open for a long time, and even with an iPhone, you could put on Nightcap app, you could put on slow shutter, you could put on any of those, and it's going to do what he's got going on here, with the exception of all those stars. You're going to have those little star trails going on, or even longer, to capture what he's got going on there. And that's I think Ron's even in here. He is in here. That there is just that. Actually, Ron, I might be hitting you up for the next guest on this show because you're a bloody good photographer, man. I think I don't want to put you on the spot because I've got a feeling Ron might have been the guy that had the golfer. This one. It is. Yeah, I'm hitting you up, man, because that's an awesome photo as well. The creativity that you've got going on in these two in these photos, that there is well, I can see how that's been taken. It looks to me like that's the one photo because the golfer is a little bit blurred. So the focus is clearly on the stars. But if you look at how this is all being lit up, there's a light coming from behind the golfer a little bit because you can see the light, the shadow in front of him, and then there's a brighter light hitting that grass in front of him and the ball, and there's a more contrasting shadow behind him. So there's two lots of light going on in this. Whether that was intentional or not, that's a bloody good photo. What do you reckon, Greg?
Yeah, I saw those on there, and I thought that was just a brilliant concept. You know, to incorporate a daytime activity with a nighttime photo, I thought that was really cool. I loved it.
Yeah. When I started into, excuse me a second. I'm really not dying. I feel fine, just this cough. When I first started into astrophotography, or nightscape photography, or broad sky astrophotography, whatever you want to call it, when you've got a foreground subject and the Milky Way behind it, or the galactic core behind it, a lot of my photos were done exactly this way, and with the one shot, multiple lighting. And I'll tell you now that I wouldn't see much of a difference between this sort of photo and what I was getting out of a DSLR. That's for a phone. It's bloody amazing. I think that's really, really impressive. Good job, man.
And he says in the YouTube chat that is a single shot. That's his son-in-law.
Oh, yep, I see that. Son-in-law. That's awesome. You're a hack. I think you've started a trend with these shots. Is there more people doing it? Have I missed something? Started a trend with these photos. There's the way that you've done this series of photos, that's just awesome. So did he actually hit the ball or not? I want to know if you went searching for the ball. Let's have a look at these. These ones here, these are, I'm not sure if Kevin's in this group or not at the moment, in the chat or not. Some of these are stacked. That's an iPhone photo. To me, that's obvious. That's an iPhone photo with the. You may not be able to see it on the resolution on the live stream here, but that's an iPhone photo. You can tell with the artifacts that iPhone has with that the night mode photography. When I zoom into that on the Facebook group, you can certainly see that. But I'm pretty sure. There we go. This is a stacked one. So is Kevin in here or not? No, I haven't seen him, but there's certainly a lot of green to this. It was this group. It was actually this series of photos, I think, that. So sorry. I haven't talked this long in a few days. So this group of photos here, it sparked something that it was. I put it onto my private Facebook page that it was almost like a proud dad moment. There's so many things about Facebook and social media that I don't like, and that is because that is a thing that we're all sitting on the other end of this computer screen, and we're saying things to people. Well, not necessarily you or I, but people say things to each other that you just wouldn't say to their face, and that keyboard warrior sort of instinct, and people being just absolutely full on disrespectful and stuff, and that really that gets to me a bit. And when I see this particular group of photos, this post, it had a bit of a thread of comments on there, and it wasn't, they weren't disagreeing, but it was like one person educating another person, and I was like, wow, these are two people who did not know each other before. They live in totally different parts of the world, and they're talking about stuff that most people wouldn't have a clue what they're talking about, and they're doing it in such a respectful way. And I thought, that is so bloody cool. It's so refreshing to see this group of people, which is what this group is about, being respectful about the photography that they're doing and learning from each other. And it was like a proud dad moment. It was like, I built this little group here, and people are getting along and having this common interest, and they're being nice about it. It was just cool.
And what's special about that, Shane, is that you got iPhone users and Android users all getting along. Yeah.
Here in Australia, we have a Ford and Holden thing. So Holden is General Motors. So for my whole life, you've either been a Holden person or a Ford person, and you did not like if little Jimmy down the road was a Ford person, you'd be like, it's found on rubbish dumps. That's what it stands for and stuff like this. But it was always this rivalry, and I see that with phones as well. Like I said, go and have a look at that first astrophotography video I did with S21 Ultra, and you'll see I said it was ugly, and they just went to town. But hey, the algorithm loved it because a lot of people were commenting, so it's one of my best performing videos. But this group of photos here, and the way that conversation went, and I think you're right, actually, Greg. I think that some of these guys are Apple people that were in this conversation, and some of them were actually, this series of photos was taken with both S21 Ultra and the iPhone. So it was just really cool to see that sort of conversation going without anyone getting all in your face. Mine's better than yours. It was just cool. But with this particular photo here, there's it's a stacked image, and I think there was maybe 10 or so. Oh, actually, it says there 11 shots, and this here to me is way too green. I initially thought it was a Huawei phone photo, but this here in the edit, I'm not sure how you've edited this one or whether you did it on the computer, and if you did and it was in Lightroom, just edit that first photo, then just synchronize the edit across all the photos, and you'll end up with a better color balance across it. The concept is fantastic. It's just a bit too green in my opinion. Let's have a look at some more. Anything you want to add to that, Greg?
No, I'm just envious that the galactic core is so crisp, and I haven't been out to try astrophotography too much lately, but I will get back into it. And I think around later this month or in August, the galactic core is going to be in a better spot for me. Okay.
So we expect to see some big things from you, mate.
Yeah, be my big mouth.
So who we got here? I need to see how this was taken. These look like they're all from the same person. They are. These look, that one there looks like an iPhone photo.
Yeah, I think he says in another one, he says 10R or XR, or some people might
really
call it. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Go to another one there, Shane. I think there might be a bit of a description, right? Oh, that's a different guy. Sorry, that's a different person. Sorry.
Although I've got a feeling
that is an iPhone 10R.
Kotovsky, is that you mentioned there on the YouTube chat? Is that you? This one, Cortex camera and Lightroom. It's interesting, that one, because when I first started this channel, there was there were some folks there saying, try the Cortex camera. And I did. I went and I tried it with the 11 Pro, and it was bloody horrible. I didn't like it at all. And I've tried it with the 12, and it was no good. And I've got a feeling that they just haven't gone past the 10, because I've tried it on the iPhone X, and it's actually worked pretty well. It's worked probably pretty similar to what he's got going on over here. Because out of an older iPhone, you didn't really have much of an option to shoot anything as far as the night sky went. And the Cortex camera is obviously something, that's an app, obviously, is an app that lets you shoot that galactic core, because there's certainly galactic core in that photo. And the other one is obviously the Nightcap app, and the Nightcap app will let you do very, very similar things. From the conversations that I had with one of the people who were suggesting to use this, the Cortex cam, you tended to get sharper images out of the Cortex than what you would with Nightcap app. But anyway, let's move on. I think that's for a phone that is a few generations ago, that XR. That's very cool. I really like that. Let's have a look at some Andres. That's quite cool. I like that when I first started this channel, it was all about astrophotography, and some of the photography that we've got going on in here now is nothing to do with astrophotography. Well, in this particular case, it's daytime and there's bloody clouds everywhere. But that's a cool photo. I really like this. This is a name that comes up pretty regularly in these photos, and you just know that. I'm not sure how you go with it all, Greg, but when I come across a photo in my newsfeed and I go, oh, I know who took that. I know who took that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you get to know their style and what they like to shoot.
Absolutely. Gavin Vickers, a Huawei P30 Pro. That is just awesome. I love the composition of that photo. I don't think, I certainly haven't got anything like that here. To take photos of. Our windmills don't look as glorious as that one. But the composition of that's just awesome. That would be something that I would encourage you to print, because that would be an awesome printed photo. In fact, some of the guys on this group have printed photos recently. I remember seeing that, and I'll see if I can find that on here. There's one in the window. You look through these, you just go, this is just amazing. How some of the photography on here is just ridiculous. Even that. Absolutely love that. Cynthia Bird. That's a name that I didn't see come up here very often. That's a cool photo. Mm-hmm. I like it because it's so different looking. What do you think, Greg? Yeah.
And you know, what I really like about the iPhone is the dynamic range that it can capture. You see some of those ones that you showed with the cloudy skies. It shows so much detail in the clouds. You just couldn't get that with a DSLR unless you had one of those, neutral density filters on, or the split neutral density filter, right? Yeah. You just couldn't do that with a DSLR. The iPhone just does such a good job of capturing so much dynamic range.
Yep. Totally agree. Let's have a look at what.
And I'm sure though the Samsungs and the Huawei's, I'm sure they do the same thing. I've never used one, so I can't speak on that.
Yep, and they do. I can. I'll speak on their behalf. They absolutely do. Mm-hmm. This one here, the reflection in that is very cool. I like that you can see in the shadows here of just how much of that the water is so clear. And I would say that if you got yourself a polarizing filter, like one of these bad boys, that photo would have another dimension to it, because the water is so clear, you'd lose the reflection and you'd pick up all the rocks that are underneath there. I think that's one of the reasons that this sort of photo that I would say to get one of these, or the ND filters that I was talking about before with the sand marks, with the polarizing ring on it. It would definitely add another element to that sort of photo right there.
And it would also saturate the greens in the top part of the frame. It would really saturate them.
Yeah. I've got a feeling you just lost me, did you?
Your video froze, but I can still hear you.
All right, give me 1 second. I think I might need to change my battery. I'm coming back. Just talk amongst yourselves.
I know how this. I can relate to this because last night when Dave and I were recording the podcast for YouTube, even Zoom just crashed on me. It just quit. So we had to restart Zoom and pick up where we left off, and I was lucky enough to be able to edit it so that it's barely noticeable. And if anybody can pick up the exact point, I'll put this out here right now. If anybody could pick out the exact point in the YouTube version of my show from last night, I'll send you a promo code for my book that I mentioned earlier. Why I chose iPhoneography. So I don't know how we put your guesses in the Bloody Legends group. How's that? If anybody can find the exact point where I cut from one, where Zoom quit and I picked it up again, I'll send you a promo code.
See, I had a feeling something would go wrong with what we were doing here today, but I didn't think it was going to be that. Because I'm using my Sony ZV-1 as the webcam here, which is why I can do this sort of stuff with like show you different product and get that nice and zoomed in like that. But because I'm tethered to the Mac, I actually thought it was drawing power in as well. It doesn't, as it turns out. The microphone's different. The microphone's a different mic going back into the back of the Mac, so which is why you can still hear me, but you couldn't see me anymore. So we'll carry on with this. We'll have a couple more I wanted to talk about. I'd love to talk about like these sorts of things, but it's just I'm in like dead flat country, and you guys just tease me with this sort of stuff. What I will say though is this one's actually in Victoria, in my state where I live. He put the name of the falls here, and I went and had a look on the map because I thought there was another photo that he took. Or maybe this one here. And I go, this looks like a gum tree. This white tree through here looks like a gum tree. This looks like Australia. And it is. It's actually a few hours from where I am. So it may well be, it may well be a bit of a trip for me to go and have a look. But in a couple of weeks, hey, my wife's even on there saying hello. And she must be watching on Facebook at the moment. She must be out of bed now, because like it's very early in the morning here still. In a couple of weeks, I'm actually heading up to Queensland, and I'll head up into the Gold Coast hinterland. It's all rainforest here up there, and I'll actually do a long exposure video up there of doing exactly those sorts of photos, just so that I don't feel like envious every time that Greg puts a photo of running water through green rainforest. Where's that? Don't know. Yeah, that's quite cool. A cool photo too. Yeah, I really like that. I love that they're not all just astrophotography photos. It's really cool. I really like that. What else we got here? There was something else. This is definitely Australian. That's very much Australian bush. I like that too. This looks like up in Northern Territory is what it looks like. I might be wrong. I'll have to have a look at that post a bit later. There was one here. Now, I don't know if this person here is here, Sean Wilson. I'll see how this looks on the stream. It does look, yeah, you can see it pretty well. This is a photo that's been taken with a wide angle lens, obviously, because of the angle of that lighthouse that's there. And what I would say is that we've probably gone a little bit too far here with the editing. You can see the halo around all those trees, all the branches of the trees. This is a HDR. If you went to put this photo into, say, Snapseed and just put Sorry about that. If you went to put this into Snapseed and then just hit up Smart HDR or HDR Scape, I think it is, this is what you would get. And there's just too much there. I think I think it detracts from the photo a little bit. If Sean is here and watching this, I'd love to see you re-edit that, dude. Bring that HDR back a bit. It's just a bit too much, I think. What do you think, Greg?
Yeah, I've never really been a big fan of real highly processed HDR stuff. In a case like this particular photo here, I would have taken 3 or 4 images of it and stacked them and, really played around with the masking and stuff like that just to make it look a little more natural.
Yeah. It's the HDR Scape, I think, is a good tool in Snapseed. It's a one-touch HDR, but it does this too much. It has a slider on there. I suspect this is from Snapseed. It has a slider on there, and I would say there are 2 parts to that. There are 2 parts to that HDR Scape. One is you could choose it for landscape, and the other is you can choose it for people. And this one here, to me, looks like it's done with the people and with the sliders way too high. The way that HDR was done traditionally is taking multiple exposures and blending them, like what Greg was just saying. And I find that with the one-touch HDR functionality on some apps, it just does this, and it does it kind of badly. This photo has so much potential, but I think it's been let down a little bit with the over-processing. I used to say to people when I would teach the photography one-on-one, not one-on-one, but one on, say, 4 or 5, when there's a group of people there and we're just teaching in person, at the end of the session that we would have, I would say that when it comes to editing, less is more. So, like, don't do too much with it. And you don't want to get your photo at the point where it looks like it's come out of a Pixar studio. It doesn't look like a cartoon. And we're getting really close to that with this photo. I'm not dissing you, dude. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to help you edit your photos a bit. That to me is just a little bit too much with the HDR. And you can see it again.
If I could add one thing to that critique session there, the horizon line, I noticed it was tilted a little bit. Always be mindful of the horizon line. If you don't shoot it straight, you could always straighten it up in whatever app you're editing in. And but I mean, you know what, this photo does have so much potential. Like you said, I love a red door. Back when in my Canon days, I used to brand myself, not that I was a professional, but I always branded myself as red door photos because I shot a picture of a red door on a church one time, and it was probably one of my best shots I ever took with the Canon. So I always, my eye is always drawn to a red door, and in this case, it's like a lighthouse. And this photo has so much potential. So Sean, if you could do a re-edit and see what you can come up with based on our discussion here, I'd love to see this again. With some fixes done to it.
I would say that with I totally agree with you as far as the horizon line goes. Sorry, guys. But because this has been shot with such a wide angle lens, that lean of that lighthouse, and if you look at the back, so the front of the lighthouse here is leaning into the photo. And if you look down that road a little bit, that light pole is also leaning into the photo. So you've got these 2 things coming in like this. As soon as we level out that horizon, it's going to do this with that lighthouse, I suspect. And it's one of those things with wide angle lenses. It's a trade-off. I look at that. Yeah. I totally agree with what Greg's saying. Like, you look at that and you go, well, I don't know. It doesn't.
There may be an opportunity to fix perspective with that too. Like, a lot of apps have that ability to just pull it back out. It doesn't have to be straightened up, but just pull it back out maybe just a little bit. Yep,
that's perfect explanation. I totally forgot about that myself. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. We'll go back in here. So there's another one there that he's done, and it's not as bad as far as the HDR goes. There's certainly a bit of haloing around those trees. But I like what he's done with the lighting here. Like the grass to the left-hand side of that photo has been darkened. If it is snapseed, and I suspect it is, he's probably done the dodging and burning around the edges there and give it almost like a vignette sort of a look. That part of this edit I really, really like. The haloing, though, I think detracts from it just that little bit. And Greg's going to say something about the horizon line.
yeah. I just, the horizon line always catches me. I always happen to see that. But yeah, you can see the tree behind that, the lighthouse. You can see where he's, lighten that up a bit, whereas the edges of the tree are still dark, right? And it's just very, I don't want to say unnatural, but it's kind of unnatural because it's such a difference between the 2 points in the trees. So, so much potential and just needs to be, kind of tweaked a little bit.
Yep, totally agree. Now, don't get me wrong, and neither of us are telling you need to do it this way. Editing a photo is purely a personal sort of preference. If you like that,
yeah,
you've already impressed the only person that you need to impress. You can edit a photo a certain way, and if you're happy with it, who really cares what this bloke and that bloke's saying? It doesn't matter.
That's right.
If you want to try new things and maybe broaden your scope of your editing, just try those things, and you might be surprised what you come up with. We'll find one more. You want to have any particular one you want to talk about here, Greg?
Let's see.
There's so many Australian photos here.
Let's go with that. Can you go back up just a wee bit to that rusty car there? Now it's at the bottom. Yeah.
This has got to be Australia.
Yeah.
It looks so Australian.
That is so cool. I love this one.
What do you like about it?
Well, it's a vehicle that's out in its element, and it's been there for years by the looks of it. It looks like it could be like an El Camino style vehicle where it's part car and part pickup truck with the back, or maybe it is a pickup. I don't know, but just the harsh weather has been beating on this thing, and the sunlight has been beating on this thing forever. And there it sits in all its glory.
So here's an Australian lesson for you. That's what we refer to as a ute, UTE.
Okay. Yeah.
Short for utility vehicle. And
they race them, don't they?
We race anything.
I think they race them over there in Australia.
Yeah, we race. Well, you can race eskies here. You can put wheels on an esky and race them, for crying out loud. You can race anything. I think this is an old Holden ute. I'm not that big with cars. Holden's at General Motors that I was talking about before. Actually, someone's actually commented there. It looks like a Holden. See if I can do that. I can do it. Yeah, look at that. Comments coming on the screen. David Bullitt looks like a Holden. I think you're right, mate. This is very typical of outback Australia. A car's died out there for whatever reason, and they've just left it there because it was cheaper to do that than bring it back. And I look at this particular photo and I go, this would be an incredible astrophotography subject.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The way that you could light that, there's so much potential. There's probably bullet holes in it. Looking at the side door there, I'd say that there's bullet holes in it. There's a ute that I used to. It's actually a truck, not a ute. It was a bit bigger than this one. At Mount Hope, but I go to pretty regularly, and I've got a few photos there. I'll see if I've got any on this that I can show you. I do actually. I'll just bring this over so I can. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So there's a place that I go to, Mount Hope, but I do a lot of photos with, and that photo right there is the same sort of thing that I'm talking about with the astrophotography potential of that other truck. This is a single shot photo. This is a DSLR photo. Sorry. This is a DSLR photo, but there's from what I've seen with phones like the S21 Ultra, there's no reason at all you couldn't do this with that S21 Ultra. What I would say is that to do this sort of a photo with that ute, we'll go back to that ute in a second, is you'd want to have 2 exposures on this. This would be an exposure for the sky and then an exposure for the vehicle in the front, and do your light painting on the vehicle in the front and the foreground, and then blend that in Photoshop or Snapseed afterwards so that the core is nice and sharp, the vehicle is nice and sharp. When you look at this here, and I've printed this a number of times and sold quite a few of these ones of this particular image, is that when you look at it close up on a big print, that vehicle is a little bit blurry. And if I had that time again, and I can't now because that truck's gone, I would definitely have done it in 2 shots. I'll just bring back that Facebook photo again. Sorry, there we go. It takes a little bit of time to get between these screens and this new app that I'm using, the new program that I'm using. But someone commented there, there we go. I totally agree with that. Everything here points to that car. Now, I don't know if that was intentional or not. It just does. The clouds point to it. The trees point to it. There's like leading lines all over this photo that bring you into the car. It's a red hot photo. Anything else you want to add, Greg?
Yeah, excuse me. I like the saturation level. It's just right before it got a little too much for me, but it really enhances the the heat that I feel from this photo in Australia. And I mean, I've never been to Australia, but I could just tell that it had to be a hot. It's got to be like, I don't know if you call that the outback or where that is.
I would call that the outback.
Yeah, and it just seething heat. Coming from the ground, it'd be probably burn your feet if you were walking on that clay or sand. But the wide angle, the essence of the wide angle lens, just does what Ron said. It just points everything to the vehicle, and it's just a killer shot.
I'd love to know. I'd love to know where this is. I'll even comment on this later and ask Stephen where it is, because I look at this and I look at the front wheel, and you can see underneath the vehicle through that front wheel. Yeah. And I can't get my head around how that works, how that's occurred. I've got a feeling that the back end of this vehicle is missing because the sun's coming in. Like you can see the shadows in the front.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry about that. I'll definitely ask about how that's done. Anyway, that's the last photo we'll look at. How long we've been going for, Greg? Hour and 20 minutes. You probably got to get off to earn some dollars.
I got a bit of time before I have to go to work, so
yeah. Cool. Anything else you want to add for the day there, Greg? Otherwise, I'm going to sign off.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me on. This has been a blast. Just like that WWDC thing, I could talk about this stuff all day. It's been fun, and I really look forward to the next one you do with whoever it may be, and I'll try to catch it live. My work shift work, so it just depends on whether I'm going to be working or not. But this has been a lot of fun, and I'll put a post in the Bloody Legends Facebook group about that book promo code thing with that video, that YouTube video, to see if anybody can pick up the exact point where my screw up got fixed.
Sure.
So
sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thanks everyone for watching. and hopefully this worked out pretty well across all the different platforms. Someone made a comment before that it seems to be working on Facebook as well as it's working on YouTube. I've got a feeling that was Devo.
Yeah, I've had the YouTube playing all along here, so
all right. Yep.
it's
Cool.
definitely working. I've been looking at the comments and stuff.
Yep. Perfect. All right. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, and keep an eye on Bloody Legends Facebook group, because I'll be hitting up one of you guys very soon. All right, guys. We'll catch you later. See you later.
Cheers.